All right. Good evening, everybody. This is the RyanSTO show, episode number 5. And today, we want to continue what we did start in episode number 4. We want to continue our talk about keybinds, how to fly your ship properly. I hope the lag is catching up to everyone if you still have issues. There will be a recorded version of this later on YouTube, and there you should be able to see everything properly. However, okay, so the keybinds in general are an integral part to piloting, as in maximizing your performance as a player when, it is one of the biggest things that come into play. Like, you always see these discussions about the build, you always see these discussions about how you need to apply certain strategies. But the real question is, how do you actually play to make those strategies happen, right? And I hope that I am not muted and you guys can hear me. Some feedback would be nice. I hope I didn't mess up anything. Okay, so anyways, to make stuff in-game actually happen, you have your mouse, you have your keyboard, as we talked about last time. But I basically told you guys what not to do, right? I said, yeah, an all-in-one keybind, that is horrible. If you take global cooldown into consideration, there's not even a reason to do it. So we basically got all the roadblocks out of the way. But a few people asked me about what should we do then? Like, we now know what not to do, but what is a really good option? So this is a keyboard. I googled this screenshot, or this animation version, picture, whatever. Okay, so it should look something like that on your keyboard too, right? You have all the 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons on there. You have Q, W, E, R, T. This one is an American one. On the German one, you would have these two. Changed the Z and the Y, but that does not matter. And basically, the where your hand will rest will be your thumb will be on spacebar, your index on D, your middle on W, ring finger on A, and I need to actually look down because I do it by intuition. And we even do have a few drop frames. Well, we'll just hope for the recorded version. Anyways, and your pinky will be on either shift or control. And from there are a few keys that you can easily reach. Those are on this one highlighted in green. I just typed in at Google good keybinds, and this is what the image showed me, and it actually makes sense. Like, these ones will be super quickly reached because your hands already rest on them, basically. The W, A, D. The spacebar will be for your thumb, and then you have your pinky floating around on either of those modifiers, okay? And you now want to just basically, what I did is, let me move over. Okay, I think I closed the game. I didn't. Okay, so this is what the game looks like. And we'll just beam up into, and I'll try to talk you through this. This is very detailed. Okay. So this is the new ship that I got today, and I made a recording for you. I actually made a couple, but it went quite horribly with all the lag, but we will see that later. So you go to the keybind section here, and then you scroll down, and then it says here, skill 1, first row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? So let's check back with the screenshot. Basically what it says is up until 6 you can reach it pretty comfortably. It shouldn't be too difficult to reach, only. Okay, so I personally never go to 7. 6 is about as far as I can go. 5 is more comfortable. And if I use modifiers, I basically stick to the green ones mostly, outside of a few alternatives. So what I do is I just bind all these things to 1 through 6 here, and then I bind something else because I can't go to 7. That's too far away from me. That's not comfortable. So I just put in to this one the alt 1, 2, 3, 4. That's, I don't know. It's not making any logical sense why it is down there. It's just, you know, I bind everything first that I can possibly think of. The next skill is X. If I hit that, I usually have my distribute shields on there. Then I bound all the control modifiers, control 1 through 6. That is quite easy to reach. If you use your pinky and the index finger, you can reach pretty easily over to 6. T, G are the ones to the right here. They are pretty far away, but still within grasp. Control G, Y, like you just bind everything until your whole tray is filled. And or you have reached the number of keybinds that you need. And once you have just allocated basically all your keys, then you open on standard configuration, this would be P, I think. You open the available skills, and then you drag and drop them onto your tray. I don't have any bridge officers on, that is why. So something like this, you take this guy, right? And then you drag and drop his abilities onto your tray. Like you take the tactical team, keep it pressed, and move it to the T. Okay? And then you just fill up your bar until everything of this list is filled into your bar. And at that point, it should make sense to yourself. Like, this is a lot of practice, this is a lot of personal preference. I can't actually tell you what to do. I can just tell you what is working for me. And the major impact here is to allocate or place similar abilities into similar spots all the time. So tag team, evasives, all your captain's things, all your reputation things, barrel roll. Those are things that you need quickly when you need them. And therefore you just shouldn't think about where to go, you know. You don't want to look down here and say, yeah, attack Paranomica is control 1, and then look to the keyboard and do it. You basically try to memorize where those abilities are. Like, I see attack Paranomica, and I just know by muscle memory basically that I need to hit control 1. I don't have to think about that. So once your tray is entirely filled up with good abilities, I'm pretty sure we talked about that a few times, but we will go into detail on science builds later. So something like that, you know, it just gets more and more, and then you fill up your tray. And if you feel that you need more space, you have this another tray to the right, which you add by clicking the escape key, rearrange HUD, and then you have, come on, stop it. Then you have this big personal tray, and you click this new thing on here, and then this new one pops up. So that's how I got it over here. That is basically for a few abilities only. I usually can work my way through here with just the ones down below here. That obviously changes a little when we get the new tier 6 ships, which just have one more bridge officer ability. Or if you try to use subsystem targeting and sense analysis, and you know, it can get pretty crowded on your tray, so just use the additional bar. And once again, don't click anything there. Just go to the key binding section of your game settings and just find whatever it says here. This is 4th tray over here. Then you just assign the keys that you need. So that is basically how I do that. And then you have the standard configuration for flying around, like E and Q. Increasing or decreasing your speed, Shift R to make it go to full impulse, R to reset speeds. That is something that you can change around as well if you want to. I left it at its standard configuration. That obviously changes your keybinds a little, because stuff that you need often that really has a big impact on you, you should put into the numbers 1 to 4, Q, E, R, F, or whatever really feels good to you. Because when you put your fired will to Control Alt F6, then you will have trouble using it, right? So make it easy on yourself, put find will on the 1. And if you use it always with an attack pattern, put the attack pattern on something similar, or on 2, put it on Control 1, Alt 1, and then you hit 1, or you hit Control 1, release the Control button, and then hit 1 again, and then you have shut off both abilities. Since you have 1.5 seconds almost time, it's no big deal, right? Releasing a key shouldn't be a difficulty. So this is about the range that you can put abilities into, and all the modifiers here basically give you an outrageous amount of space. If you still feel more comfortable with the ESDF setup, where you put the index on F, the middle on E, and the ring on S, for example, that basically works the same. You just move everything a little more to the right. And I don't know, I never felt the need for it, and I don't know, I feel awkward with it. I know that people have done it, so it's definitely a possibility. If you like it, why not? Okay, awesome. Anything else on keybinds? If you guys do have any questions in the chat, let me know. We'll cover them. To give you guys a minute of thinking on the matter, I wanted to point out something, which is today's happening on the German forums, and someone asked about keybinds and why he shouldn't use an all-in-one, because I told him that it wasn't a good thing to do, but he wasn't sure why, and he didn't really understand it. So later on, I quoted his post and put under that the episode number 4 with all the instructions on how or why we don't use the all-in-one keybinds, and he basically put up the post a little later here where he says, yeah, I've watched the video and this is ingenious for everyone, even people that don't like English too much, because I'm obviously or apparently talking very nicely, quite easily to understand. Please, everyone watch this video, you know, and he doubled his damage, he later on says, with just the next run while dying all over the place, and was all horrible, and he felt horrible on it, but that is natural. But he still got his reinforcement from pulling twice the damage from his previous record. So even though this will feel strange when you start out, it's just like cycling. It is difficult, but you'll get around to it, and once you've mastered it, it's really, really helping you. Does your wrist ever hurt? No. Never had any issues with that. Do your stretches with your hand. I don't know if you ever do that, but you shouldn't tense up too much. Take your fingers and stretch them out and everything. Don't cramp up, right? Always, that is actually something that really comes into play later on. If you try to sit at a boss for hours, or like you play competitive arena, that is a very good example too, right? The moment that you tense up, you lose the game. That is because you lose the general overview. You start focusing on small things. You basically try to win the battle, but not the war. That is a very big impact. So really, stay calm, relax, and play with ease. That is what it comes down to at the end. That's a lot of practice, but once you've managed to don't get stressed over this, like you don't sit there super excited all the time and you feel like you're doing a workout, right? That is when you can actually even play better. Hey, it's Clown Boy. There aren't stretches for playing STO. This is just some general health advice, I guess. We, or I, have played computer games for quite a while, and in between, when I don't do anything, I just try to sit there and, you know, relax my hands, shake the wrists and stretch the fingers and do all this strange stuff. So even though it will feel a little awkward at first, it shouldn't be a problem, really. And I don't know what is going on with my connection today. I hope it's fine. Okay, so anything else? If you have wrist or carpal tunnel issues, Powerball is something that has helped many gamer friends. Ryan from Germany, yes indeed. Yeah, I mean, getting a help, a tool, Powerball, I don't actually know what that is. But something along the lines will definitely be something to look at, because, you know, playing a game shouldn't actually be stressful to you. It should actually be something where you can relax, which doesn't hurt you. And I hope this is the video that you guys are looking for. That is episode number 4. Okay. So, once you have good keybinds and your mouse movement is good, or actually, let's talk a little more about that. Last episode we talked about mouse accuracy, like you should just click something when you need it. You shouldn't move around and do circular things and make yourself believe that you are an accurate clicker. Just because you click all over the place, like you do this repetitive stuff, like, can you hear that? The sound, that is horrible. If you have to do that, then you're doing something wrong on average. If you want to target something, you just click it and you're done with it, right? You don't have to click 25 times in the vicinity, you just have to hit it once. Also, when you start using your keyboard properly, you can hold your left mouse button. When you press that and keep it pressed, then you can turn around your camera around your ship, right? This is a really big impact, because then you can actually start focusing on what is going on around you while playing at the same time. Like, I don't need to click down here abilities and need to use my mouse for it. I can use my mouse to check out what is going on behind me. And this planning ahead and knowing where to go next, that is what piloting in the end really means. Like the execution of things, knowing where to go next and how to pull it off. Okay, so that should be that. By the way, I made a beautiful new version of this. This is now super sharpened and has new beautiful background textures. If you guys like it, let me know. I do tend to tense up when I'm about to die or something, or move my body when I need to turn suddenly. Do you ever use tab to toggle targets or to find a certain target? If your target is in front of your camera, that is something that you can do. Generally, clicking should be easier. However, there's one big issue with this, and in STO, for some reason, if you click a target and have another target right behind it, then it every now and then selects the target behind the thing that you actually try to click. And that is basically something that comes really into play when you do these super crazy high DPS runs, which is why I'm turning around the camera at some point, just to make sure that I cannot hit a wrong target. Okay. Now you need one with a purple background. You might want to wait a little. It should be in the rotation. Okay. So that's it with clicking, using your mouse to move the camera around. Now basically when you go into a mission, and okay, I have to confess I did it. I don't think I can blame Smirk for this anymore. He said I should do a video on the strike ship or tell the build about it. So what happened is I actually went ahead and bought one, and this is the recording of it. So this is now not a entirely optimized build. This is with dual heavy cannons because the trait obviously supports cannons. However, okay, I might have to reduce this. So I hate it that it shows down this bar all the time, which blocks our path if I'm trying to show something. Okay, so he puts in the pads, and I think we reform, so let's jump ahead to the real one. So the dual heavy cannons don't deal optimal damage. Usually what you would do is go with dual beams and fire at will, obviously. I decided to, just for the looks of it, go with dual heavy cannons for this run. Every now and then people are interested in running with cannons, so this is basically what I did with it. This is basically the build that I showed around the other day. That was, by the way, the shuffle of poker. Can show you that on later. So what this is about is knowing where you need to go next, looking down, looking around, you know, seeing where you need to go. So I now hold both mouse buttons because I need good accuracy for this one. I want to sit right in the cube, so I hold both mouse buttons at the same time, which will make my ship go into the direction where I want to go. At that time, I can also use my keyboard to use abilities, right? So I fire off the evasives, I use the GDF, I use the fleet support, then I target the next targets, all with the mouse, as you can see here, because I need to go for specific targets, and I shoot this thing over here because the other one's in line of sight. That is okay though, one thing doesn't heal too much. We shoot it dead. Okay, so now you see that I'm already pointing over the camera. Like if you go back here and look at this now, I try to see where I need to go, so then I turn my ship with WASD, pointing towards my target, and now I'm using all my abilities, and then I shoot them, right? I know that people play with the follow cam, or have the automated turning of your camera, but that is something that really hinders you later on. When I started out playing, my brother told me two things. He said, you're never allowed to use your mouse to click an ability, and you're never allowed to use any camera option but free camera movement. And that is actually true. If you do stuff like that, you lure yourself into a trap. You use stuff incorrectly. Because optimizing is what we're looking for with this, and your camera movement should be optimal for you to allow for your next step. And that is basically what we're doing here. Like, we fly around, target stuff, check out where we want to go next, and then hit it, right? So we have optimal uptime on everything. We don't have to look around and see where are the enemies now once our target is dead. We don't have this moment of, yeah, I don't know what is actually going on right now. The gateway, obviously, we don't need to turn around the camera too early because it usually is alive when you actually still can see it. And then we get into close range. Always keep in mind with cannons, it is vitally important to get into very close range. With beams, it is still also very important. But with cannons, that is the absolute majority of your damage, being at 2k or less, preferably basically nothing, you know. Which is why we fly to the back of this cube. As you see here, the range indicator showing a 0.00, which is quite good. We don't have the rapid fire up. That is a slight problem, but not too much. I built this ship with a cannon rapid fire 3, attack pattern omega 1, beta 1, and scatter volley. Okay, so that's it. Cannons did get us to 81.6k. I guess that is not too bad. So that's just for you to see what cannons just about could do. I'm decently sure, as I didn't even use on this one the ambush point marker, that you could get to around 100k with this if you really tried. But the problem is, with the current lag going on, it's really not that enjoyable. Yeah. Okay. So a little more on to something else, because I have managed to relog into the game. Find some in-game mail. So the real topics for today, the Recluse builds. Science Recluse and Tactical Recluse, or I mean, generally there's no real difference, right? A tactical captain on a Recluse is still pretty close to what a Science does. It's just the difference of attack pattern alpha and go down fighting, which relates to a huge difference in numbers, but the actual gameplay of itself is about the same. I do have a few posts. Okay, so the first one I want to show you is what I talked to about what I talked to Holofrog about today. This is his support Recluse build, or ours and everyone's. So this one runs the polarized disruptors. Polarized disruptors reduce, or they drain enemies' subsystem power while also having the disruptor proc on them, so they also reduce damage resistance. I'll just get something to drink. Okay, so these ones drain power and reduce resistance. Those things are both very good. You want to use your tactical commander usually, unless you build a super healer for PvP things, but in PvE you will generally see the commander universally in attack. He runs beta 3, beta 2, Fight Will 1, Fight Will 2, just to make sure that he himself also debuffs all enemies. And now we get into the interesting section, basically, because this will always be somewhat similar on all the builds, right? This one now is a support Recluse, as in it's not meant to deal astronomous damage numbers, but it's about supporting your allies, which is why we have the engineering team, the auxiliary to structural integrity. Those are both hull healing things, while the auxiliary to structural also provides a good damage resist. The X10 Shields has a passive with the Pathfinder. If you have that ship, you get a passive trait off of it, which gives a target temporary hull if you use shield healing. This one is a shield heal, so this gives that proc. Also reduces damage to shields by quite a lot. On the science part, we have 2 shield heals, we have the hazard emitters, and we have the gravity well to keep the enemies in place. This one is modified by graviton generator skill of your captain, and that one is modified by 2 things. First off, we put in the consoles here, the graviton generators. That is something that you can do if you are serious about, you know, making that gravity well pull everything. On a regular run, you probably don't need it. Then you could go with particle generator to increase damage, or you could go with flow caps or your subsystem powers. But that is just why we have graviton in here. We try to suck all those 10 spheres together, right? Then we have the 2-piece of the Romulan prototype, which also gives you particle generator, not but graviton generator. We have the new Kobali warp core, which gives this healing effect on use. The Dyson shield, just a very astronomously strong defensive shield. When your shield power drops to 0 on one facing, you get an instant shield heal and a 67% damage reduction. The aceton is to drain enemies' power and cover some fire. The Kobali console for the hull healing and increased for the hull healing effect if you use it, and the 25% heal increased effects thing. So basically your hull healing abilities like hazard emitters, engineering team, and oxysive will get increased. You have the 2-piece. You don't actually have the 2-piece, you just have the simulated console in here. For the hull healing part, you get plus weapons power, you get a little crit chance, and it gives you hull healing skill, whatever. Plasmonic Leech is always just drain enemy of your enemy, giving you the subsystem power that is very strong. The subspace and integration, which is this blackout thing, on top of the gravity well. So basically you drop the gravity well into the spheres, you put the subspace rupture on top, and they basically stop moving. That is one of the strongest science control things in PvE that you can do. The Tholian Tatrian grid increasing the damage of a target for 33% if he's in range, but only for 5 seconds. So this is somewhat of a really supportish build, right? You have the 2 Hanger Elish Tholian Mesh Weaver pads, which use attack pattern Beta 3, which is basically the major reason why this ship is so good. The last console here is basically free of choice. The directed energy distribution is nothing really mandatory. Skill tree is something into graviton, something into particles. It's nothing too fancy. You basically see the same as always. Always put full to electroplasma system. Always put full points into efficiency. Could potentially be a little less. The driver coil could be some more. I guess he didn't really update his skill tree any time lately, but you don't actually need it. So I'll just seconds to look at this. So on the chat, what is the tactical benefit of going forward and backward and forward and backward with your ship? That is pretty easy. Your ship has a defense rating which bases on your ship's speed. Like if you are at a standstill, your ship will have way less defense than while moving at full speed. And even moving at 1/4 speed already is good defense. You can get into the positive defense area while standing still if you use specific traits to make it happen. But the real problem is when you're at a standstill, your ship can actually get into minus defense, and that is not a good thing for you to happen. Which is when they shoot at you, you want to use, or you want to move, you know, or you want to use specifics for defense. I use chase camera. That is horrible. That shows you, what is that? Yeah, that one should be the chase camera. Isn't advisable to use only 1 Beta 3 with 2 Zamogs. Theoretically, that is a possibility, but this build doesn't run with 2 Zamogs. We have 2 guys in here for the reduction of the engineer team, 2 for the science team. I think 1 with, I don't know. We have, yeah, we have the tech team ones too. I don't know how many actually. Probably 2. Something along the lines. This is just to make it cheaper. You theoretically could put in more Zamogs and a Beta 3 only, but you run into trouble because to really only live off of 1 attack pattern and don't have this double proc of Zamog, basically when you use another attack pattern, it also reduces the first one that you used, right? If you just have 1, the total reduction will be a problem. Like I don't know if you can actually cycle it with 2. You probably would need 3 to make it a cooldown-ish thing. So this is how he flies around and supports everyone. You basically need for the starship traits. This one is the ablative field projector is the one of the Intrepid tier 6. We have the reciprocity, we have the all hands on deck to reduce your sensor scan, and we have the insane desperate repairs, which just heals your ship to full whenever you get critted 3 times and it's not on cooldown. The 2 listed here are tech team and engineering team. Not entirely sure what he did put in for the other 2. I can seem to fly straight when I don't use chase camera. Can't tell where I'm going. Yes and no. You don't want to zoom out too far, I guess, but you want to look at where you need to go next, and then you need to practice that for a little. It will really help you in the end. So the next video that I want to show you is this one. It has been a very long time for me running Recluse runs today because they all lagged like hell. This is one that is mediocrely okay-ish, and this is my layout. I run the phaser arrays just because I can. Those aren't specifically good ones. They don't have any pen on it. It's crit D3s and what came of it while upgrading. I have 4 embassy consoles on. Keep in mind that today, as of this recording, they do this plasma explosion, which deals okay damage. I know that there's discussion going on about whether or not the explosion is OP and too strong and everything. I don't believe it is. If you look at the total damage numbers that you can pull and that these consoles will provide, because when you do 100k DPS and put in 3 consoles that pull, like, you know, 12 to 15k DPS, that is 12 to 15% of your damage, okay, but that makes one console worth like 5% of your damage, and you don't have too many consoles, right? So it is strong, but it is not extremely strong. Like, there is still debate on what you should put in. So the tactical consoles are phaser ones, supporting my phaser damage. The science embassy ones are particle generator, and the universals are plasmonic leech, assimilated 2-piece with the kinetic cutting beam, bioneural, and tachyo. Elite Thorium Mesh Weavers, assimilated 2-piece Romulan engines, and the YAM core, which is probably still the best trait that you can do, because you not only gain the amp, but also the base damage, the base resist rate of your subsystem powers, and that is something that makes your weapon strain less. So that is a secondary effect to your damage. You get the subsystem power, you get the increased regen rate. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Spire cores are still better than the old ones. Okay, so I run a attack pattern Omega 3, Beta 3, attack pattern Omega 3, Firewool 3, Beta 1, Firewool 1 tag team. We can show that later in just a sec when this is done. And then I basically fly around, do the same stuff as I would do with all the other damage builds. I just put it all onto the Recluse, which actually turns out to be a really good ship for this. So we'll just go to the left transformer here. Release our pets. That is always a very important step to victory and success. So, okay, so the big idea of this build is, as in the video that I uploaded earlier this year, I don't actually know, where I did the Sci-Ship thing with the Intrepid and the Little Nova, right? This is basically a combination of the best damage sources that you can find. You put out pets, you put out fire at will with tactical consoles for your match and damage type, with the plasma embassy consoles, while also using exotic damage with your TBR and the gravity well. I used the duty officer to make it a reverse TBR, so I don't push them away but drag them towards me. And additionally, I have the R&D science trait, which you get at level 15 of the R&D school, which makes your gravity well basically crit all the time, or your exotic things. It bases your crit chance off of your particle generator skill, and for 400 particle gen, you get 100% crit H, basically. It stacks, however, with what your ship already has, so you're usually good with around 300 particle gen. So don't overcommit to this, because the damage source itself deals okay-ish damage. It is a nice contribution, but your major damage source will still be the Fired Will, which, however, in turn gets amped up by the embassy consoles, so why not use all these damage sources? I just used my Fired Will and it didn't trigger. That's basically what happened to me all the time today. We also saw earlier, I think it was on this one, where the evasive was used and goes into its 15-second cooldown, goes into a 15-second cooldown, because it is not actually its cooldown, but when an ability misfires, it goes onto this little short 15-second lockout thing, which is really horrible, because when you lose 15 seconds of evasives, your DPS is done for the match anyways. So we still hit it a little until it is dead. And there it blows. And you have reached level 1 mastery with your Tholian Recluse carrier. There it is. Pull in almost 74k DPS, out damaging the scimitar by just a little bit. Amazing. I hope he doesn't get any problems from me doing this. So this mail is not reacting properly. Let me copy this over. So then I had someone ask me about advice on his temporal science vessel. And he was basically doing the same thing. Like, you try to maximize your damage with usage of these 2 damage sources, right? You go for Fired Will and you want to do the additional damage from running exotic damage sources. So I told him, yeah, it's not really working out on the temporal side. You have a problem with your bridge officer seating. So I told him, you know, I do this sort of stuff on my Vesta. So he gave me his link to how he runs it. And this is basically, if you look at this, the same principle behind it, right? You have the tactical consoles matching the damage type. I should get something to drink. That run was a tactical captain. You have the consoles matching your damage type. You have your science consoles being the embassy ones with particle generator. I probably wouldn't put in 5. I usually go with 4. And the birenewal infusion circuits, which increases the critical damage of all your consoles and abilities. And therefore I'm decently sure that it should be worth more than having 1 more console. He has the mandatory plasmonic leech and assimilated module for the 2-piece here. You see the assimilated 2-piece, you have the Spire core, you have the secondary deflector, which is a science ship thing only. There you want the plus sensor analysis damage modifier on it. Okay. And I probably should sit up a little more straight so I'm actually in your window where you can see me. So you want the secondary deflector, which has plus sensor analysis damage on it, which is another 20%, because that is apparently a real percentage. Like, your damage goes from 30% increase to 50, and that means it is a huge boost. When we did initial testing, while it was still on Trouble, at least it was that way. I'm decently sure they didn't change it. The deflector is something that I would argue about. I know he has the solenoid deflector in this to increase his party gen, but it seems not to be worth it. What I would do is put in the assimilated deflector, which also gives you +5 auxiliary power, put in the assimilated shield and the Romulan engine. The Romulan engine gives you this attack pattern buff, which is in turn really strong for your attack pattern alpha, attack pattern omega, and attack pattern beta. The tactical layout basically looks the same, right? I would put in the another Fired Will here. So like this, we have our 2 attack patterns, we have our 2 Fired Wills, and we have 1 tag team, which usually is fine if you have reciprocity and they shoot you. The cooldown gets reduced by enough to make it actually a global thing or a lockout thing. And as we should really say, and the tactical initiative in space, what's the name of that? Well, anyways, gets you down to this 15-second lockout too, right? So you don't actually need more tag teams usually. You have the emergency powder shields, emergency powder weapons, and with 2 damage control engineers you can make this work to cycle these pretty good. The lieutenant engineer now is where it comes to a choice. You can run defensive with auxiliary to structural integrity field as he did, which is this whole healing with damage resist, right? You remember that? The more offensive one would be the directed energy modulation if you have Marin Francis. Or what you could also do is go for an engineering team and put in a emergency powered weapons too. Those are like the major possibilities here. For science, you go for a shield heal, possibly transfer shield strength, because it heals a little more. It gives you a little shield resistance, but it doesn't clear science debuffs. So he decided to go for the science debuff clear, the hull healing of hazard emitters, gravity well 1 and TBR3. TBR3 increases ban user. Okay, that should have been taken care of. Some spam bot in chat apparently. So the TBR3 deals way more damage than the Gravity Wall 3. That is something to keep in mind when you need to decide for the same slot what you should put in. Usually with the Lieutenant Commander side, you can only put in Gravity Well 1 and TBR 1. If you have the Commander going for the higher, TBR will provide you more damage. As I didn't look through his build here, let's have a quick look. He puts full points into particle gens. That is making sense with his build. What I don't agree with is the attack pattern's not fully skilled out. The EPS is a major thing for all energy weapon builds. So this one should be filled too. The warp core efficiency definitely should be filled too. Outside of that, it's looking okay. But those are really the things that I would look at. And because everyone likes to see, and I think this is the one that you're looking for, Cookie. So since everyone likes to see the Vesta runs too, I made one. This is on my, it is on the same captain, right? This is still my tactical captain. And I basically use what I just talked to you about. I have the version for engineering with the directed energy modulation to use my Marion Francis, and I run dual beams on this ship because it is pretty quickly a turner. If you don't want to do that, beam arrays are entirely fine, and if you are not really super experienced with how you're supposed to fly, you should start with beams any day. Like, the difference in damage between arrays and dual beams is very, very small. This is basically just to fly differently. This flies more like cannons to us, and since we practiced that for quite a while, that is somehow easier. When you're starting out and just want to sit in the middle, you can screw yourself less over with just going for beam arrays. So what you see me doing is proccing the all hands on deck to reduce my gravity well and TBR, and I use them as actual damage sources. Like I use my fleet, I use my alpha, and then I hit them with it. It's not too much about crowd control, but I actually try to kill them with it. Okay, so we take out the generators, fly around a little here, keep our hull healing up. The assimilated proc just helped us back to 100%. So we do put on the sensor analysis on the target, move back to the center, and now hit them with the gravity well. Putting on the sensor analysis on the gateway, which is already pretty low. Probably won't stack in time, but it's really, really strong for the tactical cube. So whenever you have a ship that has sensor analysis, make sure that you put it on a target that actually is killable. I made that just for you, Cookie. Okay. So now we get ourselves into the flanking thing, stop moving to trigger our anchored trait now. Try to slowly keep us in the arc while not losing our anchored, which didn't work out too well. But that is it for the cube. And that was like 89k. So as you can see, I mean, the embassy consoles aren't in as good a state as they were earlier, but the runs are pretty horrible all the time, and I didn't really bother to push this to 80k. I'm decently sure that all the builds that we showed could easily do 80k, like if you run the Recluse or the Vesta often enough through this, it really shouldn't be a problem. So I should not try to get dual beam banks. It's better to use beam arrays for me. I'm switching to AP eventually soon, someday. Probably not. Going with arrays really is such a small difference in damage. The Recluse run that I showed was with arrays too, and that's just because the ship is so slow and I couldn't really be bothered, right? The difference is so small. It's about deciding whether or not you want to shoot the enemies over a big area or you want to concentrate your fire on a smaller arc with dual beams. And since we usually know exactly which target we want to kill next, dual beams just feel more natural. If you are fine with sitting in the middle and dealing more damage to everything AoE-like, that is entirely fine. There's no real difference. The stuff dies after the same amount of time. So it's really not a big problem. Okay. So let's actually jump into the game to look at a few things that we need to make these builds happen and why they are so awesome, right? This is now my tune that I use for those recordings. What trades are there at Vesta? And that is what we're looking into now. So the Recluse you saw, basically what all these builds are working around are a few personal traits that you want to get. The anchored one gives you plus 5% all damage bonus and minus 5 all damage resistance rating. That is not too much, and if you move, you can easily remove this debuff. So I basically try to run this anchored on all my tunes and then use it properly, right? When you know that you can do it, just try not to move and stack this up to give you about a maximum of plus 20% damage, while in flanking this is absolutely amazing. This really is a good damage increase. The accurate is not too good because it doesn't increase your accuracy overflow while Fired Will is active, so I don't usually run this anymore. Astrophysicist gives you particle generator, flow caps, and sensors. All of those are basically good. I usually run that one too. The beam barrage is nothing too important. These ones are pretty standard. But what this build really works with is the particle manipulator, which is what you get at R&D 15 of science. And what this does is you gain 25% of particle generator skill as crit chance on exotic damage. So if you mouse it over on the left here, it says this one is plus 61% critical chance for me, while the two Romulans and my captain's skills and everything, this is like 80–90% for all exotic sources. So this is the gravity well, the TBR mostly, right? If you have the positive feedback loop, this one, after using hull or shield healing, gives you plus 10% exotic damage. So if I slot my TBR again because it screwed over my bridge officers. So this one is my TBR, right? It deals 1.4k damage. If I now use my emergency potted shields, like that, you see I gained this buff which is called positive feedback loop exotic damage. And this one now actually has its damage increased to 1552. If I use this, the buff when the effect expires should be removed and should be called exotic healing something and increase my next shield heal. Let's see if that actually happens. No, it doesn't. Okay. So apparently on the social map, you can just do it all the time. I'm not really sure what I just... Oh. Yeah, anyways. So the positive feedback loop. is a very potent trait for these builds, because you always can alternate the usage of a healing and damage skill. And if I find it again, this one, after using exotic damage, plus 10% increased hull and shield healing, right? And so you just use the one, then use the other, and you usually have enough abilities, like you use transfer shield strength to trigger it, then you hit the TBR, then you hit the emergency powder shields, and then you hit the gravity well, and so on, like all the hull healing too. So yeah, you shouldn't really run into trouble triggering this to increase your damage. Warp Theorist is something to look into. Those ones aren't really as mandatory anymore because of the Starship traits. The only problem is these might be part of the issue why the server is lagging so bad lately. Like, you see how I have 10 stacks for Pedal to the Metal, and every single stack in this game gets its own timings, and that is extreme for certain abilities. The all hands on deck really is important here. It reduces your Science Bridge Officer ability cooldowns when you use a tactical one, and it also decreases your Captain's cooldowns. So when I use my attack Plan Alpha and my transfer shield strength and then use attack team, you see how this cooldown gets reduced, right? You have this lockout of 5 seconds, and then you need to use another tactical ability like this. You see the cooldown going further down, 5 more seconds, and you don't actually want to look at it this much, but on average it will really help you, and the better you get at this, you can pay more attention to it. And then you basically, now we have this down to the internal lockout, right? And that is basically having 2 core abilities. So having the all hands on deck really increases your performance on these builds, because you get double TBR, Grav Will, and all the other science healing, and also the reduction of your bridge of your captain's abilities, which even for Psi is pretty damn good. The science gets the conservation of energy trait passively here. That one is really good because when you take damage, it increases your exotic damage sources by 30%. So you basically cover up some ground that you lose on attack Plan Alpha and GDF. It doesn't actually compensate, but it's something to definitely look into. So these builds really work around the R&D trait, the positive feedback loop. Anchored should be in all of them. The inspirational leader is extremely expensive, but it's still good. Fluidic Cocoon, increasing your damage. When you receive kinetic damage, always a good thing against Borg, because they tend to shoot you with kinetic cutting beam and torpedoes. Starship traits, all hands on deck, as we talked about. Reciprocity can help you if you don't have the duty officer to reduce the Omega and Beta. You don't really have it mandatory on this build because you have most of these abilities twice anyways, and could just go with one Zamok. Pedal to the Metal counters itself somehow with the Anchored. So basically you try to decide whether or not you go at full speed or you don't move at all. But there aren't really good alternatives on this. The Battle Ready could be interesting, which gives you damage resistance. When you use engineering abilities, you could use Radiant Anti-Cloud. The last one, the fourth, is basically free of choice. Just what you feel comfortable with. The Pedal to the Metal could be replaced. The Supremacy, however, gives you plus 20 subsystem power to all of your subsystems, and that is really good. Problem is, it saves the duration of all single stacks, therefore creates this bloat of abilities that are being calculated. I'm decently sure that that has something to do with it. Base traits, as always, the advanced targeting systems, the armor penetration, the precision for crit age, and the auxiliary to offense. Active reputation on the space ones. Duty officers, oh yeah, skill tree. For now, we keep the intelligence and pilot. Might be interesting to look into this further down the road when the pilot gets to be a primary too. So we can see how that actually plays out. This is my current skill tree if you want to have a quick peek at this. The attack patterns, this one is basically standard as with all builds. It's actually looking quite like my Romulan these days. And the important part is the particle generators. 6 points in here award you 84 particle generator skill, and that is basically the equivalent of 2 and a little science console, right? Which is why we usually tell people that when you build a ship or retrain, just put in 6 and 2 particle generators just to be safe for the future. This way I get, like, you know, almost the optimal benefit from it, and don't have to move anything around. I don't have to respec to jump on a side boat. Also, this one increases TBRs on ships like the Scimitar. If you run them, it increases the isometric charge and even has a tooltip here. Most of the stuff you don't actually need anymore. Outside of feedback pulse, gravity well, and the R&D trait, which gives you the outrageous crit H with them, which they actually need, because otherwise it wouldn't be worth using them at all. Then we have the duty officers active space. So this is what I currently run. I dropped the Zamok for a con officer because with reciprocity I didn't have to use them anymore. The Space Warfare, 2 damage control engineers to reduce subsystem power, emergency to subsystem recharge time, the Marin Francis for the directed energy modulation, and the Gragamal to make my TBR pull the enemy. Okay. And this one basically translates identical to this Vesta ship. So let me see what you guys are up to in the chat. Google Translate doesn't know that word. It's a ball pen. It's the device with which you can write. On average, it should look something like this, I guess. Okay. How come he has 10 traits? That is because it is an alien. That is correct. Wait, that is an alien? It looks so normal. Why not go crazy with the appearance? Because no one would recognize you anymore. And I don't know. I'm saving all my new spec points for the pilot expansion. So am I. So this is my Vesta class ship, which whenever you switch the ships in space like that, you have to disable all these visuals because they look horrible. So we have the assimilated 2-piece on. I only have the Mark 12 version of the deflector and shields. I don't actually need much more. The consoles, as we discussed earlier, the fitting damage type, the MCs with particle generator, all of them, the binaural infusion to increase my crit D, crit severity, the 2 mandatory consoles, the plasmonic leech and the assimilated module, all the omnidirectionals, because with dual beam mags I have trouble getting enemies into the rear arc of a phaser beam array. That would mean that I would have to fly in very closely. Could be done. Feels awkward. The Spire core with weapons to auxiliary. And then we have the secondary deflector. So let's see what this one does. I have the one that gives me flow caps, graviton, and particle gen. The particle gen, whatever this one is, shield emitters, I think, is the epic trait, and I have plus SA damage, right? This one improves sensor analysis damage buff by 20%. As I tried to point out earlier, is very important and seems to be the best one that you can get. It's not all epic. Come on, don't you see these weapons? They are very rare at best, and the deflector is even Mark 12, so it's not all epic. So this one can apparently only get sensors multiple times. You can apparently get flow caps twice or particle gen twice, which is why you basically choose the 3 that you like the best, which is flow caps, graviton generators, and particle generators for me. You can basically use whatever you want. For the third one here, the gravitons are, yeah, flow caps and particle gen have really good applications. The deteriorating secondary reflector is the one that once you use your is that the right one? I might have the wrong one on. Tychon's Rift, no. I think I messed up here. Applies to Tachyon, Charged Energy, Siphon, Tychon's Rift, and Viral Matrix. Some damage, radiation. Generally, you are looking for one that actually has abilities on there that you actually use. Let's see if we can find them. You build them in the R&D thing. We see the tooltip of it here. This one is Tachyon Beam Charged Particle. This one, is that any better? Perhaps there just aren't any good ones. Gravity Well, Photonic Shockwave. So this one is probably the one that you're looking for. The inhibiting, yeah. The inhibiting gives you the radiation damage to tractor beam repulsors and gravity well, and since those are your damage sources, you're looking for the inhibiting one. I just have the wrong one moved over from another tune. So I should have the inhibiting on another one. But nice to find out. Okay. Okay. Inhibiting secondary reflector, don't get the wrong one, don't mess up. Traits basically the same, right? Nothing too special. These builds now all fly alike. Like, you move around a few abilities, you don't have a commander tag, but you have a lieutenant instead of the ensign. You have a ensign engineer usually instead of the lieutenant commander engineer, and you still have you have a commander psi instead of a lieutenant commander ensign, which makes the abilities have different ranks, but the abilities themselves stay the same, and it's basically about movement speed and the hull and shield mod that your ship has. And the pets of the Etholian Recluse are clearly good, or better than the all the other ones you can basically get. The Vesta, however, has the advantage of the secondary reflector and 4 tactical and 5 science consoles. That's like the only weakness the Etholian Recluse really has. Secondary reflector with particle gen, sense analysis, damage. Countermeasure system seems to be pretty worthless. I wouldn't go for it. It's very rarely needed only, and sensors is mediocre too. It increases your eye on my mark and science captain's scan ability, but it's so little, it's not really worth it. Okay, so that should be it for now. I'll leave you guys a few minutes to come up with some questions. Otherwise, we basically covered the basic equipment that you usually want. We have the traits, the DOFs, the BOFs, the trait of R&D, which is really important. So yeah, I guess that should be all. Did I forget something? I don't think so. I'll just look over to the right or left, depending on from where you're looking. Very focused, giving you guys a minute or two to come up with a good question. You can also make a few tapping sounds if you want, which actually enables me to do the secret sound. We had this discussion when I tried out this microphone the other day on the TeamSpeak, and basically everyone knows by now, at least Marcus does. What is your favorite My Little Pony? the pinkish one. There it is. The secret sounds something like this. And that is called the shuffle. It's a poker trick with chips that I always have to the right. That are, how many are that actually? It's 12 poker chips that I do the shuffle with. And it makes me relax my hand, I guess. You might want to check that out on YouTube if you don't know what that is looking like. And we had a discussion about like 1 hour to guess what this sound actually is. So I'll just annoy you guys a little with this. I asked a question before about using both beam arrays and dual beam banks together. You can do that, but why would you? Like, with beam arrays you try to broadside, with dual beams you try to fly straight onto your target, and therefore they don't really play too well with one another. If you have the poker chips, look something like this. Let me actually see the camera. There. It's poker chips. The lighting might be shit. So okay. So yeah, you decide on whether you want to fly straight into your enemy or you want to broadside him, and therefore the two playstyles don't really fit together too well. If you are, however, having trouble keeping all the enemies in your front log and have some very weird way of flying, I could see it potentially. It's pretty damn bad. I honestly wouldn't do it. Practice one or the other. Fly straight into them or broadside. That should be fine. The two things is very strange. Okay. All right. Well, I guess that will be it for tonight. As I tried to point out earlier, we had horrible lags going on, which is why I'm not playing that much lately. And if you guys feel the same way, try to support all I Say lag video. It's somewhere on the forums, show it around to your friends. One more question. What trait should I go for on bridge officers on a Romulan Science Recluse? Superior Romulan Operative. Yes, you should. Romulan Superior Operative is the strongest thing that you can find in game. And let me show you why. We need to find the guy. Here. He gives you 2% critical chance and 5% critical severity. Now think about the science trait, what it does. It increases my critical chance by 60-something%. Along with my Romulans, I get to like 80%, and the consoles and everything, right? To like 90 almost. And the 5% critical severity now really come into play, because when you're always critting, these 5 critical severity are a lot stronger than the 1.5% damage increase, which you would gain from the pirates. So Superior Romulan Operative, as many as you can. If you're not a Romulan, put in pirates. Second best option. Was the last video a Psi on Vesta or a tag? That one was a tag too. If you put in a Psi, you can get to 75k still if the game is not lagging on you too much. 50k is pretty decent already. The playstyle itself is absolutely identical. You only switch out the attack plan alpha, attack fleet, which someone else will use, and the Godon fighting for the science abilities that are not quite as strong as the tag ones, which is why I usually put stuff onto my tag. I also have my Psi, but I use him in the support build only. that is how that works. Ryan, is it an option to talk in TeamSpeak with ya about the Vesta auf Deutsch? Wieso auf Deutsch? Prinzipiell, praktisch gesehen, kann man das meiste relativ schnell erklären. Ich meine, wenn du das Video dir nochmal anschaust, siehst du ja eigentlich alle Fähigkeiten. Wenn du danach wirklich noch Fragen hast, können wir nochmal drüber chatten und dann können wir vielleicht mal im Test drüber reden. Das Problem ist, dass ich relativ viele Anfragen habe, ob ich nicht mal auf irgendeinem TS vorbeigucken kann. Und das ist nicht so richtig praktisch für mich umzusetzen. Deswegen ist die Audienz das bevorzugte Mittel der Wahl. Alles klar. Alright, folks, that should wrap it up for episode number 5. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the future episodes. However, I will be on vacation. I'm actually leaving on Wednesday, and I'm gone about 2.5 weeks. So, yeah, this will be a while. However, I will see you guys next time. And I wish you guys a beautiful evening and hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit me with your questions in-game, mail, email. Probably not to Twitch because I don't read those there very often. Twitter is fine too. Actually, I probably should promote this a little more. Usually I announce when I will stream on my Twitter, which is this one. See how I wrote 9 hours ago, how I will stream in about 8 hours. It is twitter.com/RyanSTO_live. And in some more shameless self-promotion, go check out our video about the Tier 1 ISA, because that was some beautiful team play. It took us a little while to get it done, but the run itself was actually beautiful. It's called the Infected Space Advanced Tier 1 Team, and it's a beautiful video. My in-game ad handle is @asricotta. I will put that to the chat for you. Looking like that. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night.